The message appeared like a snare wrapped in elegant blue lettering. You are warmly welcomed, as though Marcus Hale had ever shown true warmth. The venue was the Grand Regency in Portland, the time this Saturday, and the event a discreet soiree marking fresh starts. Elena let her mouse linger over the reply button as the teapot switched off in the background. She could still hear Marcus's chuckle, the kind he reserved for investors, art galleries, and ladies he had no intention of retaining. She nearly erased the note. Instead, she sent it to her junk mail, caught a later train, and then, defying reason and wisdom, purchased a used red gown during her midday pause. If it turned out to be a hoax, she would face it head held high. The days had been filled with frameworks and drizzle. Elena Kim, 34, reviewed designs for a public lodging renovation, while moisture seeped at the pane edges of the charity's waterfront district workspace. She had grown fond of structures the way others adored literature, through practice, hardship, and the recollection of being in a spot that defies gravity yet endures. She could identify the era a molding was installed, the type of timber concealed under plaster, the echo in a vacant hallway. The split had granted her a one-room flat in the East Side neighborhood, her mom's slow cooker, and employment that never questioned her worthiness. She appreciated that about supports and weights. They ignored what she had lost. "Are you attending?" Arya inquired over the partition, clutching a cup labeled, "Planet's Decent Architect." "To what?" Arya lifted her device. The social columns were buzzing with excitement. A secretive party where technology and property fortunes mixed in silk. Marcus Hale's company, Horizon Ventures, was said to be revealing a collaboration. It was marked exclusive. The attendees were selectively chosen. Yet, somehow, by mistake or spite, Elena had received an invite. "He's luring you," Arya warned. "Remain indoors, binge on cooking shows, and allow your former spouse to be wealthy and absurd on his own." Elena smiled stiffly. "I'm staying put." But she sensed the pull. She understood the mechanics of shame, how an individual could be placed, how the setting could be arranged. She also grasped the dynamics of resistance, push against push, and all that is unyielding persists. On Saturday, she strode by the water-glossed marble eagles protecting the Grand Regency. The entrance hall carried sense of citrus cleaner and wealth. At registration, a lady with an impeccable ponytail located Elena's name with a rehearsed grimace that eased into promotional cheer. "Miss Kim. Naturally, the Horizon table is on your left. It would be simpler to depart." Instead, Elena smoothed a palm along the edge of her second-hand outfit, squared her posture, and stepped into a hall illuminated like a treasure chest. Portland's affluent had a flair, soggy cashmere cloaked by flames, footwear oddly shadowy and pristine. Marcus positioned himself by the platform, same stature, same sleek poise that had captivated Elena long ago when they shared a tram halt and a torn parasol. His necktie was charcoal, his gaze crystal. Upon spotting her, he remained steady. He grinned as if their encounter was arranged. "Elena," he uttered as she neared. "Pleased you showed up." "Why did you summon me?" she questioned. "Why is anybody any place?" he countered, a thinker's gesture on a serpent. Then he chortled, and his associates chortled, and a lady in silver, Sophia Lang, the charitable heir to a transport dynasty, linked her limb through Marcus's. "This is Sophia," he announced, "my betrothed." Elena sensed bitterness. She acknowledged Sophia, whose allure was a blade swathed in silk. "Best wishes." "It's kind of you to be magnanimous," Sophia stated, voice even in a slicing manner. Elena turned to exit, but spotted the cameraman. The pale reflector like a banner aimed at her features. She comprehended belatedly. The summons wasn't for mending. It wasn't mere viciousness. It was disdain, a tale. The former wife encounters the betrothed. Observe her feigned composure. A snippet to circulate in confidential groups. Her visage fixed like an insect. "Pardon me," she voiced, and almost reached the hallway when the space hushed with the intro to authority. A figure ascended the podium. The individual's aura drew in the lamps. "And now," the host declared, "our main benefactor, Julian Thorne, head of Thorne Developments." Elena recognized the title. All in construction knew it. Thorne Developments was an engine transforming rundown areas into crystal and foliage. Based on the report, Thorne was a pioneer or a tycoon whose endeavors expelled the town's essence. He was taller than anticipated, wide-framed in a tailored ensemble that suited like truth. His locks were cropped short, a mark, subtle, medical, tracing from his right temple. He was younger than rumors suggested, mid-40s maybe. His countenance, when it pivoted, didn't skim. It probed. "Portland," he proclaimed, and his tone resonated with the assurance of one trusted from infancy. "Our town is a haven. It ought to shelter all." Applause, the rehearsed sort. Julian grinned without heat, then allowed his vision to roam the area. It snagged on Elena briefly like a beacon brushing a peak. "This evening," he proceeded, "we reveal an alliance that will transform housing availability. Genuine, not mere rhetoric. But initially, I have a private revelation." Marcus's focus intensified. Sophia's grasp clenched on his limb. Julian's stare returned to Elena as if summoned. "I realize this is unconventional," he stated, "but I discovered ages ago that moments aren't controlled. They're the towns. They're the climates. They're the labors. So, I'm betrothed." Quiet, a shared pause, then a murmuring gale of murmurs. He raised a palm. "To maintain the guess as truthful, I'm betrothed to Elena Kim." The illumination shrank to one scene. Elena's features pale in astonishment. The cameraman's lens stuttered. Marcus's lips parted. No sounds. Elena remained still. She sensed the space slant like a dock in turbulent waves. Julian started striding toward her without averting his gaze, the assembly dividing. "Ms. Kim," he uttered upon arrival, tone subdued. "May I take a moment with you?" She located her voice, faint but intact. "I'm unfamiliar with you." "Correct," he whispered, "but I'm aware of their scheme." His eyes darted beyond her to the glare. "Pretend for 2 hours, then dismiss me harshly. You'll depart dignified." "This is mad," she remarked. "So is permitting them to toss you to the wolves." He proffered his palm. She wavered, then accepted it. Certain decisions aren't correct or incorrect. They're a chart sketched after the journey begins. They positioned together beneath the lamp's glow. Julian didn't grip Elena's palm, didn't incline domineeringly. He merely was compelling the space to rearrange around their concept. The publicity assistant appeared like a murmur and requested a single image. Julian said afterward without glancing at her, "Julian, your staff mentioned nothing of this." A voice interjected, Quinn Riley, Thorne Development's media director. All exact hair and blue-edged spectacles. "We must coordinate statements." "We're coordinated," Julian responded. "We're betrothed." Elena could sense countless evaluations scraping her plain collar, the resale material, the lack of jewelry. She inclined toward Julian. "What's your scheme?" "Marcus enjoys games," he muttered. Sophia's satisfied. "But their pastime is a dagger. It's neater if I blunt the edge." "I didn't request your aid." "No, but you didn't seek their spectacle either." A platter of sparkling wine intervened like an appeal. Julian grabbed 2 glasses, extended one to Elena. She clutched it for hand occupation. Marcus advanced, accompanied by a grin that had financed more than one residence. He offered Julian a steady, even stare. "Felicitations," he expressed. unaware you were involved with anyone. You overlook many facts, Julian replied calmly. Marcus's eyes shifted to Elena. She anticipated his sneer, the one that could diminish an area, but he appeared disrupted in a manner that aged his features. Elena, he commenced. Don't, she interrupted. He sealed his lips, then appended. This isn't your style. And what is? She inquired. A gray-haired committee member intervened with the enthusiasm of one who thinks they mediate the globe. Julian, he thundered. This is a notable turn. Fresh starts, Julian echoed, adopting Marcus's phrasing as if to hand it back tarnished. Isn't that our celebration? Sophia Lang observed from a group of patrons, hold firm on her purse. She held the fragile elegance of a cello prior to its chord breaks. Her parent, Beatrice Lang, intricate in dark satin, whispered to her. Beatrice's gaze slipped to Elena. Cool evaluation blended with a touch of interest. During the bidding, Julian remained at the rear with Elena. The display rotated through visuals, modern flats with verdant tops and youngsters frolicking on tidy lawn. Those children, Elena noted, are generic images shot in San Francisco. Julian's lip curved. You notice the illumination is off for Portland and the turf is artificial. You possess keen sight. I have a weary one. He adjusted so she viewed the platform. Horizon and Lang's Family Trust are pursuing our low-cost housing initiative. He explained they desire the label, not the effort. If they dominate, the spaces will be low-cost nominally, adjusted with premises that shuffle figures like a trick. And you require a betrothed to halt them. I require a tale that renders opposition expensive presently. Folks adore romance. It's a superficial barrier, but it softens blades. You might have selected another. I might have, he affirmed, unwavering. But I witnessed your expression when Hale presented his betrothed and I saw the lens. Elena felt warmth ascend. So, I'm an accessory. You're an individual in a tough spot, Julian stated. I'm providing a harsher spot with an exit. You're poor at consolation. I don't provide it. A municipal official neared, keen to be captured near fortune. Julian transformed into the tool he was crafted as, capable, appealing in a mechanical fashion. Elena observed his edge pivot in trained curves. She considered foundational strength, how certain supports appear slender and outlast all else in the edifice. Close to Sweets, Julian bent down. 15 additional minutes, then we depart. Separate doors, she suggested. If you prefer, he halted. Or otherwise. The cameraman gathered bravery and sought another image. Julian consented at last. The burst was intense nearby. Elena's reflex was to angle aside. Julian's was to advance. He avoided contact. In the image subsequently, they would seem like duo in a tempest inclining to the calm center. En route out, Beatrice Lang floated into their route. Nearby, her charm was the type that didn't solicit approval. It demanded it. Mr. Thorne, she voiced, tone satin with steel beneath. How sentimental. Permit us to arrange a modest gathering in your tribute. I'm not fond of gatherings, Julian replied. Absurd. Beatrice's stare shifted to Elena, gauging heritage, stance, the seams at the bottom. And you are Elena, she uttered. She omitted her surname. A robust title, Beatrice whispered. I respect the practical. We must depart, Julian stated. Early morning. Certainly, Beatrice's grin endured. Do watch for abrupt shifts. One can err when blinded. Outside Portland's precipitation had stabilized, the sort that infiltrated garments and intents. Julian unlocked the vehicle door of a dark limo. I'll escort you residents, he stated. No deviations. I can summon a taxi. He contemplated her. Elena, may I address you as Elena? It's my title. I regret the surprise inside the surprise. You're not remorseful, she declared. I am tactically, he expressed, and nearly grinned. Will you enter? She boarded. The vehicle carried aromas of hide and damp fleece. They traveled over glossy roads. Upon arriving at her structure, a wedge of stone amid a piercing parlor and a shared plot, Julian rested on the divider as if the vehicle was a discussion board. 2 hours granted you room, he stated, but the narrative will persist past this night. Will you join me for tea tomorrow? We can outline what society will presume is already outlined. I owe you nothing. You owe nobody anything, he affirmed. But you can utilize what's due. She pondered. Self-respect was a firm substance, hefty, compact. It could secure, it could submerge. 1 hour, she declared. Open spot, no snapshots. Accepted, he replied, and for the initial occasion his tone mellowed slightly. 10 a.m. Brewhaven on Main. He avoided attempting to clasp her palm. He didn't request her contact. He exited and she lingered on the pavement gazing up at the moist stone of her edifice, sensing both manipulated and oddly not. Indoors she got a message from an unfamiliar digit. Unfamiliar? It's Aria Quinn from Thorn Media located me on professional network. She inquired if you're publicity shy or publicity controllable. I informed her you were neither and both. Elena, I despise you, Aria. Adore you too. Contact me at dawn or from custody. Elena placed her device and permitted the silence of her one room to envelop her. She remained alert for hours, the vision of Marcus's lips parting and sealing like a creature in a tank recurring in her mind. When she ultimately dozed, she envisioned frameworks flexing in gusts without fracturing. Brewhaven carried odors of scorched caramel and drive. The servers inscribed names on mugs in tidy designer script. Julian was present already at a side spot with his outerwear removed, arms folded to expose a mark on his wrist like a faint stream. His timepiece was costly but understated. You arrived, he noted. I'm viewing good judgment as a trait weakness to fortify, she remarked, seating. He pushed a bundle of typed sheets toward her. This is a preliminary pact. I'm not endorsing anything. Wise, he replied. Examine it and inform me what's intolerable. She perused. No secrecy agreement, no ethics provision, a reasonable allowance, a schedule. 3 weeks after which both sides would dissolve the tale softly. She paused. 3 weeks. I require 3 elements. Duration to lock the initiative, protection while I disentangle a Lang-related complication, and to expose Hale's enthusiasts publicly. What complication? He deliberated, then disclosed. 2 years prior, I approved a rushed review on a harborside project, lawful, but the reviewer was novice. We overlooked a side support level. It didn't fail, but the remedy was expensive. Lang covered the remedy and has suggested they can create issues if I don't comply. So, Beatrice controls a cord attached to your arm. He encountered her gaze. Your opportunity. To disclose where you'll believe you don't merit to be present. Elena sensed the familiar pain, the one that constructed refuge from shortage. When I began with the charity, she expressed, we were updating a structure on Cascade. The funds were already minimal. I permitted a vendor to convince me to skimp on earthquake fasteners since the simulation indicated they'd suffice. They didn't. Not a failure. But in a gale, a corridor moved and a resident tumbled. She fractured her arm. It's my responsibility. Did you remedy it? Yes, and I checked on her weekly. She absolved me. I didn't. Julian affirmed as if marking a section on a document titled Mortal. We bear our faults like stones. Occasionally we construct with them. Save your sayings, she remarked, but she wasn't as furious as she desired. He extended another sheet. I also had Quinn assemble a harm assessment. Since yesterday, 3 sites and 1 rumor profile have shared your image. 2 users labeled you an opportunist. 1 termed you destitute. 1 discovered your crafting profile and mixed weaving with sorcery. Elena chuckled. Sorcerers don't weave synthetic. Fact noted, he expressed, if you grasp my palm openly for 3 weeks, I provide you protection. What type? Publicity training. A pretend band you select and rejection authority over each image chance. You'll join me at 3 occasions. You'll dine once with my sibling. You won't be solitary with any Lang kin. You portray it as if they attack. They gnaw until you hemorrhage. She reclined. And what do you gain beyond appearances? I gain observing how Hale reacts when someone he attempted to degrade is elevated above him without approval. You turn males into endeavors? No, he replied. I create frameworks. Males traverse them and disclose their supporting defects. She recalled Marcus's expression when Julian named her. She recalled Sophia's palm on Marcus's limb. Was it affection or an arrangement? Likely a mix. The globe was a record. Emotions were records. If I proceed, she expressed, you don't deceive me. I don't deceive, Julian affirmed. I exclude. Then incorporate me. A break and then he affirmed. Completed. They clasped palms. His hand was tepid, a chart of rough spots that astonished her. He observed her focus and expressed, I labored summers as a builder in Walla Walla. My dad trusted in evidence. And now he trusts in varied evidence. They exited into a dawn that contained a short bright gap in the overcast. We'll need visibility once today, Julian expressed. Something relaxed, a library. It'll render the band appear beyond a tool. Elena sighed. All right, but I select the band. Excellent, he replied, and a trace of ease appeared, which made him more relatable than prior. Quinn will organize a confidential session so we evade photographers. No, Elena expressed. We do it at an ordinary shop. We cue. We praise another's selection. If you desire the protection to resemble flesh, you don it, he pondered, then grinned with the swift, genuine glow of a road lamp reigniting post-tempest. You're correct. At Cascade Books, Julian bore her overcoat without seeking leave, and heeded a staff suggest a compilation of writings on society and metropolises. He acquired it for them both. At a modest gem dealer on Summit Hill, Elena picked a slim silver loop with a small oval gem positioned laterally, the least flashy piece in the display. The staff expressed, it's enduring instead of, it's inexpensive, and Elena appreciated her for that. As they returned to the walkway, a university youth with a camera raised it. Julian Thorne, he summoned, like calling a hero. Best wishes, dude. Julian looked at Elena. She affirmed once. The youth captured. May I obtain a statement? He questioned, face red with the excitement of closeness. Like, what's romance to a fellow like you? Julian regarded Elena as if she were the sole viewer. Romance is a form of design, he expressed. You craft something that can bear load without failing when it's serene. The youth paused. Neat, he replied, not completely grasping. He uploaded the image before they traversed the road. By dusk, the image had collected remarks. Someone ridiculed the band as delicate. Another expressed, truly it's ideal. Arya phoned. Are you betrothed to a tycoon? I'm betrothed to a bother, Elena expressed. Bothers compensate nicely. Bothers include protection. Just maintain your air supply. Influence is dense in those spaces. You'll begin inhaling it unknowingly. I won't, Elena expressed. But she perceived the caution like steel in cement, concealed, vital. Supper with Julian's sibling Miriam occurred at an African eatery in Riverside that carried scents of spices and warmth. Miriam possessed their dad's chortle and their mom's push for extra portions. She welcomed Elena with an embrace that seemed unearned and precisely fitting. Julian's terrible at tender matters, Miriam expressed, ripping flatbread. He overlooks that not each issue is a burden to allocate. Thanks, Elena remarked wryly. That's comforting. Julian eyed upward but softly. I'm not composed of steel, he expressed. You are 90% steel, Miriam countered, then faced Elena. He shared the reality about the act we're performing. I endorse it less than expected. I can withdraw, Elena expressed surprised. I don't wish to intrude. Miriam denied. No. I mean, I desire you didn't need to intervene whatsoever, but if required, better with awareness and a grip on the departure. Elena grew fond of Miriam's frankness. What was he like earlier? She inquired casually. A determined lad who constructed spans over drainage channels with rope and pilfered boards, Miriam expressed. And a youth who aimed to rescue our mom, which he couldn't. Julian's cheek tensed. Miriam? She questioned. Miriam expressed tenderly. Our mom passed from a hemorrhage post a basic operation when we were in university. Avoidable. The clinic compensated. Julian dislikes avoidable errors. He labors as if he can erase demise. Elena comprehended something vast and minor. A form clarified. I'm regretful, she expressed, and intended it. Thank you, Julian expressed, and intended it. Post-supper, they strolled the path, bypassing households and youthful pairs. Julian matched Elena's step rather than guiding. It would be trivial to one always granted equal area. To Elena, it signified. What will Marcus do subsequently? Julian inquired as they paused at an intersection. He dislikes losing dignity, Elena expressed. He'll feign your declaration was a private jest. Then he'll discover a sharper method to wound me. What? He'll supply a narrative to a secondary writer. Charity designer employs phony betrothal to advance into thorn networks. He'll portray it as a revelation on authority disparity when it's actually about reclaiming his. Then we preempt him. Julian expressed. We conduct a discussion with a journalist not purchased on the issues with superficial low-cost measures. You discuss fasteners and gust forces. You reference your error, you protect yourself. I don't desire to be a visible figure. You already are, Julian expressed compassionately. The discussion arranged by Quinn in 72 Hours was with a regional writer, Zoe Sinclair, who excelled at detecting what folks believed they concealed. Zoe came with a compact device and a query embedded like a thorn. Why you? She questioned Elena pre-recording. Why did he declare you? Elena pondered falsehood. She selected something near verity. Because I appeared as the sort who required someone to prop a portal, and he's the sort who believes portals should be foundational and widespread, Zoe grinned swiftly. And are you betrothed? We are betrothed, Julian expressed. He maintained Zoe's stare with the eased intensity that allows no pursuit. It was a falsehood that held a desire that held a wall. They discussed the initiative, about side support and generic images, about how specific charitable trusts employ low cost, the way some lists employ handcrafted, a cost disguised as merit. Elena explained how fasteners bend and take in force, how a corridor can displace even when all seems sound. She informed Zoe about the cascade structure and the fractured arm. Zoe didn't assault. She permitted the confession to settle and locate its own weight. Post-discussion, Julian and Elena lingered in the lot behind the publication's workspace. The atmosphere carried sense of damp print and vehicle fumes. You didn't need to reveal that, Julian expressed. I did if I wished to be mortal and not a barrier, she countered. Being mortal is costly. Being a barrier is deadly, she expressed. He regarded her then as if something in his thoughts had been angled and now locked into a more accurate position. You're more perilous than I assumed, he expressed. To all who assume you'll flex as they desire. Back in her one room, Elena discovered a note on her structure's shared discussion. Unit 4's roof is dripping again. She ascended with a light and rapped. Mrs. Ramirez, 72 strong, admitted her. A slender tan streak unwound down the edge joint like the start of a mark. I'll contact Luis, Elena expressed. We'll mend it tomorrow. You labor excessively, Mrs. Ramirez expressed. You require someone to view you like you view structures. I have a band now, Elena expressed half in jest. Mrs. Ramirez inspected it. Lovely, she expressed. Don't allow it become a restraint. The stamped note arrived like vintage fortune cents fabric and pigment. A meal to celebrate romance and community merit hosted by Beatrice Lang in her hilltop estate that resembled a game piece withdrawn from play. Very ancient, Arya expressed upon viewing the summons, like they'll request you to sip from a vintage goblet. It's a snare, Elena expressed. It's a snare with fine steak, Arya countered. Quinn was sharp in instruction. We agree. We manage arrival and leave. No drinks for you both. Stick to the East Salon where the cameraman can't separate you. Lang detests being directed where she can't go. Julian expressed she'll feign approval for 30 minutes, Quinn expressed. Then she'll dismantle a barrier. On the evening, the estate's grounds shimmered moistly. Indoors, a string ensemble performed a composition that vibrated Elena's senses. Beatrice welcomed them with an aerial peck and guided them beyond an Asian divider valued more than Elena's area. Sophia positioned by a pane, a faint spark in fabric, her focus switching between Marcus and a lady in a teal gown. A writer, Elena realized, the pricey type that terms it a portrait. Beatrice paraded them like exotic vintage. Her praises landed like bills. So invigorating, she informed Elena's attire, so modest. In the East Salon, Julian placed them near a depiction of a gale at ocean. Gales are truthful, he whispered. Beatrice called them with the faintest incline of her jaw. A salute, she proclaimed to the space, accompanied by a bubbly glass. To bonds formed not solely by fondness, but by shared goal. Marcus's cheek was rigid. Sophia's grin was a fold etched into china. Julian, Beatrice expressed sweetly. Inform us when you realized Elena was the match. Julian didn't seek Elena to save him. He avoided prepared sentiment. He spoke with the plainness of a man reluctant to act beyond essential. I realized when she amended a simulation, not to score, but to avert a flaw none of you would detect. Beatrice's grin honed. And you, Miss Kim, when did you realize Mr. Thorne merited your faith? Elena claimed her moments. Folks held air for varied causes. Interest, spite, optimism. When he disclosed something unappealing about himself without measuring the gain, she expressed, and when he didn't request me to diminish for the ease of a space, a subtle silence succeeded by courteous chortles, Beatrice elevated her vessel. To truthfulness, then may it ever be tolerable. Cuisine arrived, costly as forgiveness. At the center, the teal-gowned writer intercepted Elena near the restroom. Nearby, her gaze was compassionate, which worsened the risk. Ms. Kim, she expressed. Zoe Sinclair published your discussion. Well executed. I'm Brooke from Pacific Portrait. I'm informed you designed your path into Mr. Thorne's existence quite effectively. That's not how design functions, Elena expressed. Your conscious Marcus Hale is murmuring alternate accounts of the evening at the Grand Regency, Brooke expressed softly. He claims he summoned you as a sign of ending and generosity. Elena grinned. Marcus frequently confuses generosity with display. And the betrothal. We're betrothed, Elena expressed. The falsehood had substance now. It chafed less. Brooke paused, then softened her tone. Unofficially, Do you know that Beatrice suggested Marcus first with the notion of summoning you? He informed someone at the counter loudly post-salute. He believed he was a royal in a scene. Beatrice required him to trust it. The foundation shifted. The snare within the snare exposed a pivot. Elena appreciated Brooke and returned to the salon, vision sharpening to fresh perspectives. On the distant side of the space, Beatrice was conversing with Julian's legal advisor, a reserved man whose outfits regretted their price. Her palm rested on his cuff in a way that implied either courtship or accusation. Elena traversed to Julian. She spoke quietly at the spot where words become ideas. It wasn't Marcus's concept, she expressed. Beatrice orchestrated the summons. Marcus is a handy fool. The degradation was a test. She desired to observe your reaction. She desired you to proclaim something unprepared. Julian froze. But because then she controls your schedule, Elena expressed. And she controls me unless we seize that. By revealing the verity, nearly all, first. Not to media. To the space that constructed the snare. You wish to salute? Julian expressed a partial chortle. I wish to dismantle her barrier before she considers. He evaluated it, then affirmed. He claimed a vessel lifted it. Beatrice, he expressed, and the title quieted like a chime. Thanks for arranging us and for examining our capacity. Gentle chortles and then vigilance as folks grasped this would not be routine. Julian gestured to Elena. She raised her own vessel. I was summoned to the Grand Regency as an accessory for another's narrative, she expressed. Mr. Thorne disrupted that narrative with his. Tonight, I'd like to disrupt the disruption with consent. Gazes, blades, the murmur of fortune. Sophia observed with a minor eagerness that Elena couldn't interpret. I dislike being utilized, Elena expressed. But I comprehend tactics. Beatrice comprehends it superior. She knew that degrading a female publicly might incite a male into a proclamation that could be exploited. She was accurate. Beatrice grinned fangs. Compliment, dear, is a remedy. It's a scan, Elena expressed. The positive is our framework is solid. The superior is the narrative concludes tonight. There will be no further arranged shocks. If we persist betrothed, it will be because we select, not because a space or a payment demands it. A whisper coiled through the visitors. Someone cleared throat. Affluent. Beatrice tilted her cranium, supporting frankness. Supporting is beneficial for quakes, Elena expressed, and for spaces like this. Marcus's lips parted a creature again. Sophia's fingers paled and then loosened as if she'd been clinging to a ledge with one palm and had ultimately ascended. The ensemble, unsure, commenced something gentler, as if melody could level what phrases had folded. Afterward in the garment area's quiet Sophia neared. Nearby her flawlessness faded into something mortal. I didn't know about the summons, she expressed. I knew, but not that way. I thought it was refined. It wasn't, Elena expressed compassionately. I'm departing, Marcus, Sophia confessed, as if the phrases had been confined behind her fangs and ultimately escaped. Not due to you, because I keep transforming into selves I dislike in spaces like that. Elena trusted her. Good, she expressed. Depart the space. Not merely the male, Sophia affirmed, gaze luminous. Don't permit him, she added, glancing to Julian. Transform you into an endeavor. I won't, Elena expressed. She hoped it was accurate. The initiative ballot neared like climate. Opinions proliferated. The discussion with Zoe matured into background. Images from the library and the Lang meal spread, labeled with views that revealed the labelers more than the topics. Elena acquired the tough ability of avoiding remarks post-midnight. At the charity, a contributor warned withdrawal if Elena didn't moderate her private existence. The leader, a female who trusted in both ethics and bills, expressed, "We'll endure without him," and intended it. Elena intensified her labor, atonement that seemed like restoration. Marcus's murmur effort sharpened into a piece on a fashion platform that employed the term plotter thrice and modest zero. Brooke, in a separate article, composed a clear-sighted feature on Beatrice's charity and its calculated link to influence, and Beatrice never pardoned her. Amidst Elena and Julian's acted nearness grew real boundaries. Instances that didn't seem like act. A mutual jest about a poor pastry. A dispute about a motorist who nearly struck a cyclist. Julian desired to contact the firm and overwhelm them with sway. Elena desired to notify the town's nameless report line. "You believe all can be mended with mechanisms," she expressed. "Sometimes you must press with your palms." "You believe pressing with your palms is cleaner?" He expressed compassionately. "Sometimes it's merely delayed." They settled awfully and flawlessly, both mechanism and palms. One evening, as precipitation dashed down the pane of Julian's workspace, they examined a updated low-cost simulation. It was the initial occasion Elena had been in his personal area. Cement, timber, a lone image of a Walla Walla meadow. He unfastened his wrists and folded his arms as he always did when labor intensified. She followed a mark on the copy. "If we trim this reserve, we can include 10 spaces without overwhelming upkeep." "You're not merely skilled," he expressed. "You're truthful." "Don't express that like astonishment." "It's not," he expressed. "It's a fastener." She regarded him then, and the atmosphere changed. It occurred gradually and then abruptly, like mist dividing to expose the form you'd been approaching. He extended, then halted. "I don't desire this to be portion of the act," he expressed. "It won't be," she countered, equally frightened and matching it. They embraced with the cautious regard of folks who have both been tools and don't desire to be again. It wasn't explosions. It was warmth locating a residence. Afterward, they didn't proclaim or alter their public routine, they merely proceeded with less planning and more respiration. Which is why the disloyalty when it arrived seemed like a support failing in what should have been calm. A week pre-ballot, a disclosure struck a primary publication. 2 years prior, Thorne Development circumvented normal review schedules at Bay Outlook, endangering security to maintain timeline. Source states had utilized governmental ties. The source, unnamed but detailed sufficiently to be readily identified, was a designer who had since become a visible personality. The suggestion was refined. Elena Quinn phoned at 6 a.m. "Did you converse with anyone besides Zoe?" She insisted. "No," Elena expressed, gut absent. "I informed Zoe about Cascade, not Bay Outlook." "We didn't share the Bay Outlook tale with anyone," Quinn expressed icily. "You knew Julian disclosed to you." Elena couldn't inhale. "Did he?" Julian reached her one room 10 minutes subsequently. Precipitation on his locks, the appearance of a man who is both enraged and cautious. "Did you disclose it?" he questioned. "No," she expressed. "Did you assume I would?" He paused. Rage flickered. A thing with straight corners he was accustomed to managing. "No," he expressed. "But Quinn assumes." "Quinn assumes in publicity," Elena expressed. "I assume in faith." He shut his eyes. When he opened them, they were fatigued. Then another in this group did. "Beatrice." Elena expressed. "She knew sufficiently." Or Marcus. Julian expressed. "He heard sufficiently." Or Miriam. Elena expressed then promptly. "No, not Miriam. Not Miriam." He concurred. They followed the evidence trails. The piece's specifics matched a note Julian had messaged only to two, Quinn and legal advisor. The legal advisor had been observed in intimate talk with Beatrice at the meal. "He's pure," Julian expressed instinctively. He's been with me 8 years. Then he knows how to keep the blade from leaving marks, Elena expressed. Julian regarded her as if she'd voiced something he'd partially known, but hadn't permitted himself to form into words. I'll manage it, he expressed. Not solo, she countered. At the ballot, the assembly hall was crowded. Activists, builders, writers, folks who resided in structures others simply acquired. Zoe was present. Marcus sat rear, the way a man positions when he anticipates relishing the drop. Beatrice was invisible, which signified she was close. Julian spoke initially, claiming the Bay Outlook haste, claiming the remedy, naming the level, naming the expense. He did not feign it had been honorable. It was convenient, he expressed. Convenience is not a merit. We compensated and we acquired knowledge and we altered process. Then Elena spoke unscripted. She approached the speaker because she could not refrain. You will hear much about faith, she expressed. You should. I violated it once in a corridor and someone tumbled. Mr. Thorne violated it once in a schedule and the town compensated. We desire an initiative not because we merit your funds, but because you merit the verity about how we construct. The sole way this succeeds is if folks like me position beside folks like him and don't avert gaze. An assembly member who appeared born exhausted expressed, Are you betrothed? Yes, Elena expressed. She didn't regard Julian, but that's the least intriguing link between us. The initiative succeeded by one ballot. Outside in the dim that always trails major choices, Quinn drew them aside. Legal advisor quit an hour prior, she expressed. Evidently, he took a Lang advisory payment for charitable guidance. He didn't reveal. We have the message. Beatrice is skilled, but she doesn't employ disposable profiles. Vintage Fortune trusts the regulations don't pertain to vellum. Julian breathed out. Something in his frame dropped and remained. He faced Elena. I'm regretful. I questioned even a portion, he expressed. You didn't. Not truly, she expressed. But you will again someday, and so will I. That's why frameworks get reviewed. He chortled, a noise that held more ease than amusement. Come residence with me, he expressed. I have a roof to mend, she expressed. Mrs. Ramirez, precipitation and all. I'll join, he expressed. You don't know how to patch, she cautioned. I know how to acquire, he expressed. Marcus sought a gathering at a skyline lounge with a vista intended for sharing. He arrived with a countenance set for regret. Elena brought Arya, who positioned 2 spots away, feigning deep fascination in a dish of fruits. I'm regretful. Marcus started palm around a tumbler of liquor like a tool in a local play about sorrow. I never intended you intended precisely, Elena expressed. You intended a narrative where I was minor. He recoiled. Beatrice proposed the summons. She expressed it would be refined. She expressed the cameraman would be subtle. And you trusted her, Elena expressed, because you favored the image she depicted of yourself. He awaited her to absolve him. It was his routine. Females had absolved his youthfulness the way a town absolves precipitation. She did not. You can express regret to the resident whose title you provided to a fashion author when you supplied him my narrative, she expressed. You can express regret to the trainee who delivered your correspondence and recited the image labels aloud so you could chortle. You can express regret to yourself for being too readily amused by your own viciousness, but you don't get to express regret to me. And in vision that settles a record, he gulped. I'm departing Horizon, he expressed a offer. I'm heading to a tinier group. That's not atonement, she expressed. That's fresh image. He collapsed, then gathered. Do you adore him? He questioned. Yes, she expressed, and the verity astonished them both with its readiness. He'll injure you, Marcus expressed quietly, and for once it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like prediction and sorrow. He might, Elena expressed. So might anyone. So did you, Marcus affirmed. I favored you most when you donned my tops like they shielded you. He expressed a self-centered minor confession. I favor me most when I don't, she countered and departed. Beatrice, trapped even in her own residence by a controversy that was the dullest sort monetary, phoned Julian to propose an arrangement that resembled a boon. We should convene, she expressed. We are both sensible. You are sensible when necessary, Julian countered. I favor you when you're truthful. Truthfulness is an instrument, not a merit, she expressed. I differ, he expressed, and terminated the call. Brooks' portrait published with an image of Beatrice beside a classic painting of a female clutching a small, anxious animal. The label did not compliment. Sophia, liberated from Marcus, launched a workshop for fabric creators in Southside and dispatched Elena a crafted wrap with a message, not a restraint. Miriam phoned Elena on a Wednesday when the heavens had pledged to overcast. He's altered, Miriam expressed. Not due to the initiative, due to you. Don't permit him harden. He will. He requires someone to agitate him like a mat. I can be gust, Elena expressed, and Miriam chortled. In the East Side one room, Julian acquired patching poorly and then sufficiently. He acquired preparing one meal well, a broth that improved the following day. He acquired positioning with Elena while she labored through simulations, handing her brew at suitable times and not interpreting personally when she cursed at figures. They disputed like folks who had acquired how to maintain position without poisoning the soil. He detested that she wouldn't relocate to his crystal container on Harbor Street. She detested that he thought acquiring her structure would be a affection note. It would spare Mrs. Ramirez from the subsequent owner, he expressed. It would render me your lessee, she countered. He pondered, then expressed, what if I fund via a fund that you manage? That's still you. What if we form a resident group, he expressed, aligning with the concept instead of advancing with funds first. I contribute initial capital. You and the dwellers operate it. I get repaid final. She grinned then, the way a structure grins when a load locates the correct support. The 3-week schedule had extended to a month, then 6. The band remained on Elena's digit because it fit there now, not because it repelled lenses. They didn't establish a time because times are for tales and they were constructing a framework. Some days Elena sensed the influence disparity as a pressure on her chest. Other days she sensed it like breeze at her rear propelling endeavors ahead. One dusk on the top of her structure, their structure now in documents endorsed by locals who wept and chortled. Julian placed a container of drinks. Portland extended below all crystal and determined stone. Inform me something you didn't inform anyone, Elena expressed, face on her crossed limb. When Bay Outlook erupted, I went to the harbor side at 2 a.m., he expressed. I positioned on a post and tallied to 1,000 because that's how my mom soothed me when I was a lad. I desired to leap and see if the chill would reorganize me into someone who didn't commit avoidable errors. She pivoted to regard him, gaze tightened against drops the gust desired to claim. Did you desire to perish? I desired a different self, he expressed, but I'm acquiring to exist with the one I possess. My opportunity, she expressed. When you claimed my palm at the Grand Regency, a portion of me adored you instantly. Not you, she amended. The concept of you, the aid, the splendor, the way all adjusted. I detest that portion of me. I also absolve her. She'd been famished. I can be both a feast and the individual who instructs you to prepare, he expressed, and she chortled. They united like regular folks performing an exceptional act tenderly. After he questioned, do we inform the world anything additional? Only this, she expressed, that we remained. They did through a season that split tubes and endurance, through a bloom that brought an award for their group test. through a warmth when Miriam had a child, and Elena acquired that weariness can also be delight if it resides in a space with a bed. Through a decline when Beatrice shifted her donations to creativity and remained 3 courteous spaces distant from lodging. When the town inaugurated the initial endeavor funded by the initiative and directed quietly, determinately by Elena's amended simulations, the leader appreciated a roster of folks that included Julian and also included 3 dwellers by title. Elena positioned aside with a disposable mug of brew and wept like an individual who had persuaded a structure back from failure. Later, Marcus passed, smooth-faced and diminished. He affirmed a respect to the version of her he had ultimately acquired to perceive. She affirmed back and didn't bear it residence. The initial commemoration of the Grand Regency arrived with precipitation and the recollection of bursts. Julian proposed a discreet meal at the African spot. Elena proposed noodles at a spot with insufficient seats and superb toppings. They did both. On the stroll residence, they halted under the Grand Regency marble eagles. The entrance hall shone, unconcerned. Want to enter and create a salute? Julian questioned, half prank. No, Elena expressed. Let it be what it was. A snare, he expressed. That pivot, she amended. We pivoted. He claimed her palm and she permitted. The band captured a road glow and burst the way small true elements do. What are your conditions now? He questioned like a man whose primary tongue will always be Pax and who has acquired to convert them into vows. Conditions, she expressed. No arranged shocks. Reviews every 6 months of us. We position and inform each other the most unappealing thing we think and the most appealing thing we can't express without recoiling. We construct more resident groups. We acquire nothing large without questioning who it displaces. We absolve ourselves on a plan and we dine well. And adore. Adore is a form of design, she expressed, hurling his phrase at him because he merited to grasp it. We craft something that can bear load without failing when it's serene. He embraced her brow, a gentle blueprint. Agreement, he expressed. They went residence, not to crystal, but to stone enduring firm against precipitation. If you're still present, thank you for journeying with Elena and Julian from a snare-illuminated hall to a top where 2 individuals selected each other without act. Tales like this aren't myths. They're blueprints. Marks drawn, amended, redrawn, and ultimately constructed with palms that know their own power. If you sense the bite of shame, the silent bravery of mend, or the ease of a framework that ultimately endures, I hope you'll retain this one. If this tale touched you, press approve, share your ideas in the responses. Inform me the instant you would have departed or remained, and distribute it with someone who adores complex, salvageable folks. 4 more rooted dramatic tales where influence meets soul and figures merit their conclusions. Join and activate the alert so you don't skip the next. Until then, be gentle to your structures and to the folks within.